At a young age, 16 to be exact, it had become obvious to me that I would die in a car crash. Asleep at the wheel, hit by a drunk driver, a patch of black ice, all of the above. It made no difference. The result would be the same. I always had a premonition that I was to be in one of those headlines that's focal point was something unimportant the victim was once good at doing. High school football player perishes in tragic wreck. Something like that. Dozens of my schoolmates, mostly acquaintances, would say things like, I could light up a room with my smile, when in reality, I was simply doing the things kids do, like them. In fact, I was probably twice as rotten. But that's the trouble with dying young. You don't have a choice in being someone's false god when you go. So I ultimately decided this could not be my fate. Because if I could cheat my way through calculus, how much harder could it be to cheat death? Why did I have to be behind the wheel at 16? The more I thought about it, the clearer it became that I didn't. So I swaddled myself in innocence. Whatever residual childhood I had left was to be perfectly preserved, like one of those cross-legged Peruvian kids they find buried in the Andes under centuries of ice. My pledge to boyhood, a reversed rite of passage. This all sounded pretty. This all sounded noble. This could have been mistaken for responsibility, but it was just fear, all dressed up. Because when 18 came, I renewed my vows. I made it through high school bumming rides, spotting my friends for gas with my mom's money. I was Jack Kerouac, without any of the charm or fearlessness that came with getting lost. Instead, I had a set itinerary of places to go, places I knew I would arrive safely, unmangled, with the help of my friends, my Secret Service. I treated them more like chauffeurs, though a chauffeur is a cushy gig compared to the individual hells I dragged them through. Their loyalty to me was more so comparable to the serfs, who each carried on their shoulder a corner of the gold-encrusted parade float the king sat on so their feet would not have to touch the ground. And there I was, on top, wearing my crown. No confused deer could harm me at such heights. No fallen tree could assassinate me or my presumed purity. There I was, the emperor of innocence, the king of children. And now I'm 23. A friend, an old friend I hadn't seen for a while, recently gave me a ride to meet with other old friends. In my fantasy where I give lifts to loved ones to repay the mileage they've carted my ass around over the years, this guy has probably earned himself a cross-country venture's worth. It took 3 minutes for the subject of my driver's license to enter the conversation. He didn't believe me when I said, I just can't afford a car right now. And he knew for a fact I was not going to the DMV the upcoming weekend to get my paperwork in order. But I knew his disbelief was more than cynicism. Because with the sort of honesty that only comes with growing up on every Little League team together, he asked me, Are you scared? In most social situations, this exact question is a taunt, accompanied by a chorus of insults questioning the size of one's testicles. But my old pal drove quietly and waited. I chose not to tell him about the nights I drove alone, the nights where I stole my mom's car and ripped down the Casey Highway, screaming out of the open window to echo down the valley. I didn't tell him about tiptoeing back into my house at 2 a.m, or sliding her keys back onto the hook, or the sound night of sleep I got after coming down from Grand Theft Auto-induced high. I didn't tell him, because it never happened. Instead, we rode in silence, and I thought of the headline they'd one day write for me. Former high school football player, 43, dies of heart attack at sight of own shadow in mother's home. All hail the king of children. Long live the boy of boys.